Well, today testimony in the Alex Murdaugh murder trial continued about the nearly 100 financial crimes that Murdaugh is accused of, in addition to ballistics evidence that could be key in this trial.
Well, the jury heard from a SLED firearms examiner, a witness who's critical to the state's argument that a Murdaugh family weapon was used to kill Maggie Murdaugh. The
defense tried to block this testimony in a pretrial motion, but today the judge decided that the witness could indeed testify. Our Greg Adeline is live in Colleton County with details on that key testimony. Greg?
Well, good evening to you, Judy and Donnie. This is the first time that the jury heard from ballistics expert Paul Greer. You'll remember last week in a pretrial hearing, the court heard from Greer and his testimony about some of the ballistics on the scene at Moselle. On June the 6th, 2021, he was allowed to testify, and at the time, that was a big win for the prosecution. So today, he took the stand and told the jury some of his findings about some of the weapons found at Moselle, and most notably, what he came away with, saying that the same cartridges, similar cartridges, were found near the body of Maggie Murdaugh, and similar cartridges were found near the gun room as well as the shooting range on the Moselle property that were fired at an earlier time. Greer testified that those casings came from the same weapon, presumably a Murdaugh-owned weapon, a missing .300 Blackout. That weapon is not yet recovered. It has not been found, and that is a focus of the defense. In a withering cross-examination this afternoon, Jim Griffin asking if Greer could know absolutely, for sure, 100% if those cartridges match. It's important to note here that Will Loving testified that both he and Paul Murdaugh were shooting that weapon and lost it a few months prior to the murders. So again, this revelation from court today, the jury hearing that the cartridges came from the same weapon at multiple places along the property, including next to Maggie Murdaugh's body, that's a big deal. Take a listen.
We can agree on one thing, and that is you're not here to tell this jury that any of the weapons in this room were used, in your opinion, to murder Maggie or Paul, correct?
Based on my examination of the evidence, I was able to identify that there were matching mechanism marks in items around, as mentioned, in the body of Maggie Murdaugh and other areas of the property.
Back out here live, it's important to note that some of that testimony today, let's face it, was very tedious, very technical at times, and you wonder how that went over with the jury. Also, another note here, there are evidentiary hearings that are happening that are sprinkled throughout this trial. They happen on different days, different potential witnesses coming to the stand. The jury is let out of the room, and then there are these evidentiary hearings. Well, on Monday, we expect to hear from one person in particular who could be very key to the prosecution's case, that it was financial troubles that ultimately led Alex Murdaugh to commit these crimes. It's Mark Tinsley, who is expected to take the stand first thing on Monday morning. He was the lawyer for Mallory Beach, for the estate of Mallory Beach. There was a hearing that was set to take place on June the 10th in the lawsuit involving the boat crash. That meeting on June the 10th, that hearing that was set to take place, prosecutors say was a big factor in what may have led to, I guess, this financial house of cards in some ways crumbling on Alex Murdaugh. That is the big assertion from prosecutors. And so on Monday, we will hear from Tinsley in an evidentiary hearing. It's not clear if he'll ever go before the jury, but that is the very latest. Again, the jury will be back at 11:30 on Monday, but that's what we can tell you here live from Walterboro. Greg Adeline, WIS News 10.
Great insight, Greg. Thank you very much. To keep up with the very latest in the trial, check out our coverage on WISTV.com. And as a reminder, we are streaming that trial every day on all of our platforms.